Hey, Robbins here, founder of Technology Marketing Toolkit.com, where we specialize in working with VARs, managed service providers, or pretty much anyone selling outsourced IT services and support, and we help you get more clients, but also better quality clients. And in this video, I'm going to be talking about some really dumb mistakes I see a lot of IT service firms making when they're delivering proposals to new prospects. And, selling is one of those things I think most IT firms or IT business owners, don't like. They're technicians at heart. They love the technology. They love serving their customers. But selling is one of those areas where they kind of struggle. And so I'm going to give you some really brief tips that I promise you, if you implement these three things, you're going to see a significant improvement in your close rate. But I also believe you're going to be doing a better service to your prospects and your customers. Because, I'll tell you what, let me just kind of get into them and then you can decide for yourself. But number one, the first thing I see a lot of IT firms making a mistake with is the first time that you bring up price is in your proposal. So you sit down, you meet with the prospect, you find out, hey, what do you need? What are you looking for? And unless the prospect brings up, hey, what do you think this is going to cost me? And maybe sometimes they do, you just avoid it like the plague. And I don't know why salespeople just avoid the price, because think about it. You and that prospect know you're not going to do this for free. So why not talk about their budget and what your price is? I don't understand why you would even carry on a sales process, like putting together a whole proposal, if you haven't in some way, shape, or form discussed price. So at my organization, if a company comes to us and wants us to do some sort of consulting or custom project, one of the first things I ask them is, what are you trying to achieve? Number one, you got to get clarity on that. And that's another thing. Make sure when you're sitting down with a prospect and they're coming to you for IT support, here's another thing, just as another side tip here, I wasn't even putting in the slide here, is really make sure they have articulated to you what success is. Because in most cases, they haven't even thought through it themselves. And particularly if there's a group of decision makers, get them in a room and make sure they decide what success is. So once you've all gotten to agreement and you've really crystallized, clarified what success looks like, 6 months, a year, 3 months, whatever the time frame is of working with us, how are you going to know that what we did solved your problem? What does success look like? So you got to do that, number one. And then the second thing is, hey, what's your budget? What are you expecting to spend it on this? And that's not a bad question to ask because, I'll give you an example. Right now we're building a house, a brand new house, and I went to my builder and told them, hey, we want to engage with you to build a house for me. And what do you think one of the first questions they asked me was, what's your budget, right? Because, he can't even begin to start quoting me anything. Am I looking for a TP or am I looking for a 20,000 square foot mansion? Okay, obviously there's going to be some budget differences there, and it's the same with your clients. We got to find out what is it they want, and then what is it that their budget is, and then you as a consultant, part of your job is helping them to come together with their expectations and what it's actually going to cost. That's one of the values you bring. So make sure when you're meeting with a prospect, you ask them maybe what your budget is, or maybe you just tell them. If they tell you, here's what success looks like, this is what we're looking for, often I just tell them what it's going to cost. I've been doing this for a long time. You've been doing what you've been doing for a long time. If a prospect says to you, here's what I'm looking for, here's what I want, you as a professional should know within a ballpark range what it's going to cost in order to implement this. So here's another line you can use. It's not meant to be tricky or anything, but I'll just say, based on what you're looking for, based on what you consider success and what you want us to do for you, this is going to cost somewhere between X and Y. Are you prepared to spend that? That's it. And if they're not prepared to spend that, there's no need in putting together a proposal. Because here's another little tip. A proposal should only be on paper what you've already verbally discussed. So never ever leave a prospect with put together a proposal and get back to me. My answer to that is, well, what do you want the proposal to say? We got to discuss the specs. We got to understand what you want, the time frame, the budget, the resources. All of those things need to be discussed, and then a proposal should just be a summary of what you've already verbally discussed. So make sure that the prospect is not getting the price in the proposal the first time, because that can be sticker shock. And you know as well as I do, you put together these beautifully crafted 12, 20-page proposals with all the specs, all the details. And what does the prospect do? They go to the very end and look at the price anyway, without looking at any of the other stuff that you have, all right? Which, brings me to the next mistake a lot of people make, is that you email your proposals. Never, ever, ever email a proposal, all right? When you first meet with the prospect, you're kind of sitting down, here's what's going on. If you've got to come back, if you've got to think about what you're going to do and come back to them with some sort of proposed idea, all right, you sit down with them either in person or do it through GoToMeeting or GoToWebinar or something like that, all right? Don't ever email proposals because you're going to lose control, because then what happens is you email the proposal and here's the follow-up. It's a stupid, hey, I emailed you the proposal last week and I haven't heard back, so I was just wondering if you have any questions. If you do, just give me a call. It's the dumbest way to follow up with a prospect. I mean, first of all, it's extremely needy, number one. Number two, what do you think? If they didn't have questions, they aren't going to call you and ask you? I mean, do you think they're sitting around a meeting going, hey, got this guy's proposal, it looks really good, we got some questions, but we're not going to call him. We're just going to, leave him in the dark. I mean, it's the dumbest thing. So that's why you should never deliver price in your proposal without you being there. Now, if you're going through a proposal plan when you come back, it's got some pricing in it, you're discussing all that, and then you can finalize it after that second meeting if need be. I mean, but often, like I've said a minute ago, if I'm talking to a prospect, I'm not going to, sometimes I have to think it over what I'm going to charge them, but often if they're asking me for something that I've done before and I know what the time investment's going to be, I know what it's going to cost, I'm just going to tell them, look, this is going to cost you somewhere between X and Y. Are you prepared to spend that? If they're not, then there's no reason to have a second meeting. And this is going to save you so much time. And the other thing is your proposal really should be the highest and best value you can deliver to a client. This is your roadmap. This is your consulting saying, look, here's your problem. Here's how you need to solve it. Why would you email a proposal? I mean, if you went to a doctor, would a doctor email you the report of findings of what's wrong with you with a bill at the end? It's ridiculous. I mean, so don't do that. This is salesperson behavior, not consultant, not trusted advisor behavior. So make sure you stop doing that. And then finally, when you're delivering a proposal, I always recommend having two options. So option A and B. A lot of people go in and say, all right, here's our contract, here's our solution, it's take it or leave it. And that's the problem when you only come in with one solution. Now, in some cases, one price makes sense. Like if you come to buy our toolkit, the toolkit's $3,000, that's it. There's not option A and B. I mean, there is, if you talk to us, maybe it's toolkit plus some other services you might want, but that's it. Now, in a consultative arrangement where I'm going to be working one-on-one with the client or we're solving a problem with them, I'm always coming back with here's option A and here's option B. And the other thing is, by the way, both will work. You should never underquote what a client needs to get the result that they want because they don't want to spend the money. And rewind that and listen to that again, because a lot of IT people, another mistake they make is they cheapen down what they know the client needs because the client doesn't want to spend the money, and then they don't get the results they want, and then you get blamed anyway, and it makes for a bad relationship. But I always go in with option A and option B, because then when I'm sitting down and saying, okay, here's how I'd solve the problem, we can go this way or that way, both will work, here's the little pros and cons of this, here's little pros and cons of that, and it's more of a preference of delivery. And then it becomes a consultative close, all right? Instead of saying, here's our proposal, take it or leave it, it's now, do you want option A or option B? And at least there can be some discussion around that. So I hope you liked those tips. If you did, if you got something out of that quick, 10 minutes that we just went over, I'm going to remind you, if you're a client of mine, hustle your butt over to itmarketingroadshow.com and register for one of the events that I'm doing. I will be delivering an in-depth training on how to close more sales, how to make selling a lot easier with no tricks. I don't like tricks and games. It's the stupidest thing ever. I don't like overcoming objections. In fact, one of the things I'm going to show you is how to handle objections in advance so that you're not arguing with a prospect. You're not having to handle them or deal with them or have some sort of a clever thing that you say to overcome them. I don't think prospects don't want someone who's cute and clever and slick. I mean, they can see through that. But also, I'm going to show you a really elegant way to handle that and how to make the sales process not only more enjoyable for you, but also the prospect, and you'll naturally close more. So again, make sure you hustle over to IT Marketing Roadshow. Join me. This is the last one I'm going to be doing, so you better get over there, get there. It's free. free, okay? So you can't tell me you can't afford it. So go ahead and join me there, and we'll go over more sales training when I see you at the event.